In a world that glorifies the loudest voices and the most flamboyant personalities, there exists another kind of man. One who doesn't shout to be seen, but instead draws people in through silence. He doesn't demand attention. He invites it, not through noise or performance, but through a magnetic stillness that feels almost otherworldly. This man is the Sigma male, an archetype that lives outside the conventional hierarchies of society. Most people are naturally pulled toward what's visible, the alpha who dominates at the front or the beta who finds safety in blending with the group. But the real fascination lies in the unseen, in the quiet figure whose mystery whispers louder than the crowd's noise. Around him, there's an energy, subtle yet undeniable, an aura of quiet confidence, a depth of self-awareness that requires no validation from the outside world. And here's the truth. This isn't about chasing social status, nor about flexing dominance or power. His energy is something entirely different. It's the presence of a man who feels completely at home in himself, who has rooted his identity not in the applause of others, but in the certainty of his own convictions. A man who has walked the long, solitary road of self-discovery. Through that journey, he has learned that true strength is never about controlling others. It's about mastering your own mind. People can sense this instinctively. It bypasses logic and social conditioning and speaks directly to something primal within us. The aura of the Sigma male is a mirror of his inner world, calm, purposeful, and anchored in unshakable truth. Before we continue, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from right now? And what time is it where you are? Drop it in the comments, because sometimes the exact moment you stumble on a message like this says more about your path than coincidence ever could. Stay with me until the end, because the deeper layers of this truth might just shift the way you see yourself. When they embrace solitude, Sigma males become more than individuals. They transform into a quiet force of nature. And it's this rare authenticity that makes their aura not just appealing, but powerfully irresistible. Number 1. The power of emotional unavailability the right way. The Sigma male's aura isn't something that can be copied, bought, or faked. It's not loud, it's not flashy, and it doesn't lean on status symbols, constant attention, or social approval. Instead, it is a subtle, magnetic pull that's shaped through intentional restraint. Where the extroverted alpha thrives by being seen, the Sigma thrives by holding back. His power isn't in what he reveals, but in what he chooses not to. The emotions he keeps contained, the thoughts he guards, the depth he saves for rare moments that matter. These are what give him presence. Psychologists would call this emotional self-regulation, a trait tied to resilience, clarity, and higher levels of emotional intelligence. By controlling how much of himself he offers to the world, he protects his inner landscape from chaos, distraction, and pressure. And here's the paradox. That restraint is exactly what sparks curiosity. Human beings are naturally drawn to mystery. When someone remains composed, measured, and deliberate in how they share themselves, it triggers a pull we can't resist. We want to decode what's hidden. We lean in. With the Sigma, every word spoken carries weight. Every gesture feels deliberate. Every pause is charged with unspoken meaning. And that's not manipulation, it's mastery. Mastery of self and circumstance. History is filled with examples of men who embodied this Sigma essence. Explorers like Sir Ernest Shackleton, who led crews through impossible Antarctic trials with calm steadiness. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, whose stoicism shaped an empire, not with noise, but with presence. Their influence was profound not because they shouted, but because they didn't need to. They proved that true authority doesn't beg for attention. It earns it. The modern Sigma male carries this same principle into today's world. In social settings, he moves differently. Unbothered, self-possessed, yet impossible to ignore. Respect doesn't come because he demands it. It comes because he embodies it. His aura delivers a timeless truth about power. Real strength doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to compete with noise. It whispers. It observes. It commands presence by existing, not by performing. And in the end, depth, discipline, and quiet confidence will always shine brighter than shallow charm or desperate attempts to impress. For the Sigma, the gaze of the world doesn't matter. He already knows something most people never will. That silence, when rooted in mastery, speaks louder than words ever could. His aura is a paradox. Elusive yet magnetic, understated yet unforgettable. And it reminds us that the greatest influence a man can ever wield is mastery over himself. Number 2. The allure of autonomy. The Sigma male's independence is often misread by the world. Many assume it's born from isolation, bitterness, or a disdain for others. But the truth is far deeper and far more powerful. Rather than being born from rebellion or defiance, a Sigma male's independence springs from an unshakable belief in his own self-sufficiency. In a world obsessed with hierarchies, cliques, and group identities, he doesn't step outside the system to fight it. He does so because he knows his worth is inherent. It's not something others can give or take away. Psychologists note that this kind of deep-rooted self-reliance is tied to high emotional intelligence and a secure sense of identity, enabling the Sigma to move through life without leaning on constant approval from society. Unlike the Alpha who dominates a room with his commanding presence, the Sigma carries a subtler kind of magnetism. His autonomy itself becomes attractive because it radiates freedom, stability, and purpose. People are instinctively drawn to men who seem complete on their own, because wholeness signals strength. It speaks of a life guided not by conformity or peer pressure, but by intentional choices and unshakable principles. Those choices, often unconventional, aren't random or rebellious. They emerge from deep reflection. He doesn't walk a different path to be noticed. He walks it because his instincts and self-awareness guide him there. Neuroscience backs this up. Decisions made from inner clarity rather than external influence trigger brain regions associated with satisfaction, long-term planning, and emotional resilience. This makes the Sigma not only intriguing but also profoundly inspiring, because his life itself becomes living proof of the power of self-awareness. What truly amplifies his presence is the way he balances independence with quiet social intelligence. He isn't blind to the importance of connection, but he engages with others selectively. His interactions are never shallow. They're deliberate, meaningful, and purposeful. This balance between solitude and society creates an aura of mystery around him, an understated confidence that people sense even before they can articulate it. At his core, the Sigma male embodies a paradox: fully present, yet untethered, grounded yet never trapped. He shows that self-sufficiency is not isolation. It's mastery of one's inner world. And in daily life, this truth reveals itself in subtle but powerful ways. Maybe it's the relentless discipline with which he pursues personal projects, or the quiet way he builds knowledge across fields without needing applause, or the way he masters skills not for display, but for growth. His independence isn't a rejection of society. It's a conscious alignment with his own compass. It's the art of self-trust. And whether people realize it or not, this is exactly why they find themselves drawn to him. His life becomes a silent blueprint of autonomy, purpose, and freedom. A reminder that the most magnetic charisma often belongs to those who dare to walk their own path, even if they walk it alone. Number 3. The quiet confidence. The Sigma's independence is one of the most misunderstood aspects of his character. To the untrained eye, it may look like arrogance, aloofness, or even antisocial tendencies. But in reality, it comes from something much deeper: a profound trust in himself. Unlike the Alpha, whose influence is loud, performative, and often dependent on recognition, the Sigma's influence flows quietly. He doesn't need to assert it, he embodies it. Psychologists connect this kind of self-sufficiency to emotional intelligence and a secure identity. He doesn't need to climb ladders or collect titles to feel worthy, because his sense of value is internal. In a world governed by social hierarchies, peer pressure, and constant noise, the Sigma steps outside, not to protest, but because he knows that his worth was never dependent on anyone else's opinion. This kind of nuanced independence is not withdrawal from life, it's mastery of one's own compass. And there's something magnetic about that. Evolutionary psychology even suggests that humans are wired to gravitate toward individuals who display stability and self-reliance, because it signals competence, confidence, and resilience. His choices are never reactive. They are deliberate, rooted in reflection and self-trust. Neuroscience shows that when decisions stem from self-awareness instead of external cues, the brain activates regions tied to satisfaction, long-term success, and emotional control. In other words, his autonomy doesn't just make him different. It makes him more effective, more resilient, and more at peace. This is what allows the Sigma to cultivate a life of purpose and discipline. A life shaped by quiet confidence rather than loud declarations. He doesn't need to brag about achievements because his confidence isn't performative. It doesn't exist to impress. It exists because he trusts his own foundation. And that authenticity is exactly why people find themselves drawn to him. He doesn't chase approval, but others can't help but respect his certainty. His presence whispers what louder personalities try to scream. That true charisma isn't found in external noise, but in quiet conviction. In the end, the Sigma male is living proof of a timeless truth, that the most magnetic form of influence isn't the loudest voice in the room, but the man who walks his own path with confidence, self-awareness, and unshakable inner strength. Number 4. The gift of observation. The Sigma male is not just a man of silence. He is a man of awareness. A quiet observer who studies the world with a depth of perception that most people never even attempt. He often speaks less, not because he has nothing to say, but because he understands the value of listening. While many rush to fill silence with noise, the Sigma patiently allows the silence to breathe, using it as space to read people more deeply. The shifts in tone, the flicker of an eye, the brief hesitation that reveals more than 1,000 words ever could. Psychologists have long suggested that people who practice deep observation develop sharper emotional intelligence. By noticing what others overlook, they become attuned to the hidden motives, unspoken emotions, and unexpressed intentions of those around them. The Sigma embodies this principle almost effortlessly. His watchful presence transforms observation into a refined skill, enabling him to perceive layers of truth that escape the average eye. To him, the world is full of subtleties, and he thrives in that space where the unspoken often carries more truth than what is said aloud. And when he finally chooses to break his silence, every word lands with remarkable weight. Unlike the endless chatter that dominates most rooms, the Sigma's speech is deliberate, precise, and deeply insightful, cutting straight to the essence of a matter. This kind of precision creates a magnetic pull, not through dominance or flamboyance, but through the quiet gravity of wisdom. History and literature are filled with men who carried this same gift. Brilliant tacticians, wise philosophers, and visionary leaders who knew that influence doesn't come from being the loudest voice in the room, it comes from clarity. The Sigma male follows in this timeless pattern, proving again and again that real power doesn't perform, it resonates. But the Sigma's allure isn't only intellectual, it's profoundly emotional. People don't just hear his words, they feel seen by him deeply and completely. In a society drowning in superficial interactions, his way of truly noticing others creates an almost sacred space. Neuroscience even confirms this. When people feel genuinely understood, the brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, fostering trust and emotional connection. The Sigma male does this naturally. It isn't an act. It's the byproduct of his patience, attentiveness, and depth. And unlike so many who need to prove themselves, the Sigma never broadcasts his accomplishments. He doesn't inflate his ego because he doesn't need to. His confidence isn't for show. It's rooted in a profound self-knowledge, a quiet certainty that cannot be shaken by opinion or circumstance. That kind of authentic strength is magnetic in its own right, a calm beacon others find themselves instinctively drawn toward. In the Sigma male, we see a rare kind of power, the power of watchfulness, reflection, and depth. His silence speaks volumes, his observation leaves lasting impressions, and his presence lingers in the mind long after the moment has passed. Number 5. The absence of drama. If the Sigma's gift of observation is one defining trait, his resistance to chaos is another. He is a living study in composure, a figure who moves through life with an inner stability that most people only wish they could achieve. Unlike those addicted to social validation, or those swept away by constant emotional turbulence, the Sigma cultivates balance. His calmness acts as a shield against the endless noise of modern life. Psychologists repeatedly identify emotional regulation as one of the strongest markers of resilience, and this is precisely the quality the Sigma embodies. Simply by being present, he commands attention without even trying. People notice him not because he demands the spotlight, but because he radiates a quiet authority rooted in mastery of self. His presence reassures. His calm steadies the room. What makes him especially fascinating is that this stability is not accidental. It is deliberate. He doesn't chase drama, nor does he compete in the petty games of social dominance. He refuses to let the opinions of others dictate his actions. Neuroscientific research shows that people who constantly compare themselves to others activate stress regions in the brain, leading to anxiety, poor focus, and emotional instability. The Sigma avoids this trap entirely. By measuring himself against his own standards instead of society's, he preserves mental energy. This clarity of mind allows him to think sharply, act with purpose, and respond to challenges with remarkable precision. His discipline turns ordinary decision-making into something almost surgical, free of the emotional clutter that clouds most people's judgment. In a culture obsessed with frantic ambition, endless networking, and constant stimulation, the Sigma is a striking counterbalance, a harbor of calm in the storm, and people naturally gravitate toward him, drawn to the steady confidence of someone who doesn't need the noise to feel significant. His conversations aren't about performance, they're intentional. He listens carefully, speaks with intention, and acts deliberately, creating an aura of trust and reassurance. Anthropologists point out that across cultures, individuals who embody composure and decisiveness often wield influence, even without formal authority. That is the essence of Sigma behavior. His lifestyle mirrors this balance. He values routines, reflection, and solitude not as escapes, but as tools for clarity. Practices like meditation, journaling, or quiet contemplation are not luxuries for him, but disciplines. This commitment to peace doesn't just serve him, it subtly impacts everyone he encounters. By embodying stability, he inspires others to seek it. By walking in self-mastery, he awakens the same desire in those around him. Ultimately, the Sigma does not need to inflate his achievements or parade his worth. His confidence isn't a performance. It's simply who he is, an inner state of being unshakable and serene. And that is why his influence, like his presence, is unforgettable. This quiet, unwavering certainty in his abilities, untouched by outside opinion, creates a presence that feels profoundly calming, magnetic, and deeply reassuring to those around him. The Sigma male becomes a living example of what it means to master the art of intentional living, reminding us that true strength doesn't lie in noise, recognition, or dominance, but rather in the silent, unshakable power of self-possession. Number 6. The magnetic humility. For all the quiet confidence he radiates, one of the Sigma male's most striking qualities is his humility. Unlike many who measure their worth in the applause of others, in trophies, or in the endless pursuit of recognition, the Sigma anchors himself in something far more solid: competence and inner conviction. His compass points inward, not outward, and this is what keeps him grounded. Psychologists often stress that humility should never be confused with weakness. In truth, it is a form of advanced emotional intelligence, a balanced awareness of one's strengths and limitations without the restless urge to advertise them. The Sigma lives this truth with ease. He navigates the world without chasing competition, without clinging to dominance, and without needing to prove his superiority. In a culture that equates loudness with value, this sets him apart instantly. What makes his humility so disarming is its stark contrast to the performative behaviors that dominate social spaces. Where others boast or inflate their achievements to gain approval, the Sigma remains quiet, letting results speak louder than words ever could. He doesn't enter conversations to prove himself. He listens carefully, observes deeply, and when he does speak, his insights carry the weight of authenticity. This approachability, rooted in sincerity, pulls people toward him. Connections formed in his presence are not shallow or fleeting. They are genuine, lasting, and meaningful. Neuroscience even backs this up. Authenticity has been shown to activate the brain's trust centers, signaling safety and reliability. That's why the Sigma's humility is magnetic without him ever having to force it. Even more, his humility reflects wisdom. He recognizes that life is not a race to prove superiority, but an ongoing journey of learning and growth. For him, mastery is never a final destination, it's a process. And within that process, he understands that true strength means embracing vulnerability when needed, showing empathy without losing self-control, and standing firm without arrogance. This balance of competence and modesty makes him both relatable and admirable. People don't just respect the Sigma male, they feel safe around him, inspired by his composure and his ability to remain steady even when chaos unfolds around him. Ultimately, humility for the Sigma male is not an accessory, it is a lifestyle. It influences the way he lives, the way he connects, and the way he carries himself. In a world that glorifies attention, status, and recognition, his quiet and grounded confidence becomes a rare kind of power. His humility reminds us that the strongest form of attraction is not loud or demanding. It is calm, self-aware, and profoundly human. Number 7. The unpredictability of a private life. Another quality that fascinates people about the Sigma male is his air of unpredictability. He is an enigma, not because he tries to be mysterious, but because he chooses to live by his own design. Where the Alpha thrives on visibility, dominance, and recognition, the Sigma quietly carves out his autonomy. He doesn't broadcast his intentions, nor does he announce his next steps, and this makes his life almost impossible to predict. This unpredictability isn't chaotic, it's magnetic. Psychologists note that humans are naturally drawn to mystery and complexity, which is exactly why the Sigma often captures people's curiosity so deeply. His independence suggests a hidden depth, a rich inner world filled with layers of thought and insight not immediately visible to others. What makes him even more captivating is that his unpredictability is rooted in discipline and choice. He does not drift aimlessly, he deliberately charts his own course. Whether in relationships, career, or personal growth, his decisions are guided by self-mastery rather than conformity. He pursues excellence quietly, without asking for validation, without needing recognition. Research on introverted leadership styles supports this. People who lead themselves with independence, introspection, and discipline often develop rare qualities that make them invaluable. The Sigma male embodies this principle. He doesn't compete for the spotlight. Instead, he influences through quiet competence and unwavering confidence, proving himself through action rather than performance. This hidden depth makes him a puzzle others long to solve. Every interaction feels like peeling back a layer, with the sense that there is always more beneath the surface. His unpredictability isn't about rebellion, it's about freedom. It is the refusal to be confined by society's expectations, the courage to walk in a direction no one else dares. From a sociological perspective, the Sigma male flips the very concept of influence upside down. He proves that real power doesn't always stand under bright lights or demand constant attention. Sometimes it's subtle, quiet, almost invisible, yet still impossible to ignore. What makes him magnetic isn't what he reveals. It's what he withholds. His aura isn't built on overexposure, but on restraint. His presence carries layers of mystery, depth, and intelligence that most can sense but few can fully grasp. And that, more than anything, leaves a lasting mark. The irresistible energy of the Sigma male is not an act. It's not a calculated strategy. It is simply the natural radiance of a man who chooses authenticity over performance. His life is anchored in purpose, sharpened by introspection, and grounded in unwavering self-awareness. In a world obsessed with noise, he chooses silence. In a culture drowning in chaos, he embodies calm. And within that stillness lies a kind of power that is not just compelling, it's unforgettable. If this resonates with you, don't just pass by, like, share, and subscribe to Epic Persona. Here, we uncover the psychology, strength, and mystery behind men who live on their own terms. Question for you: do you think real power is louder when it's seen, or when it's simply felt?